Welcome to our second media briefing, and thank you for coming. I hope you had an enjoyable Korite, and I pray that we witness many more. Today we will inform you about a number of policy issues as well as the engagements of the President. And this will be followed by a Q&A session. First of all, on agriculture, since the inception of his government, President Barrow had put emphasis on adding value to agriculture to improve the economy. His government's policy is to promote diversification in agriculture. This calls for not only focusing on groundnut and rice production, but to promote livestock, horticulture, and poultry farming. The Ministry of Agriculture is working on the implementation of this policy to promote public-private partnership, to encourage investors to work with farmers and move from subsistence to commercial farming, as well as add value to the production, processing, storage, and marketing chain. This week, on institutional reforms, you will be aware that the President approved the changes in the security sector reform with the appointments of the security heads at the police, immigration, and prisons. Similarly, appointments of civil servants as governors and deputy governors are part of the institutional reforms the government is undertaking. It is government policy to depoliticize the office of the governors in the regions. As representatives of the President at regional level, the office of the governor is a public institution that should serve all citizens. Also on institutional reforms, President Barrow delegated the Minister of Women's Affairs, overseeing the office of the Vice President, to launch Welcome to our second media briefing, and thank you for coming. I hope you had an enjoyable Korite, and I pray that we witness many more. Today we will inform you about the policy issues as well as the engagement of the President. And this will be followed by a Q&A session. First of all, on agriculture, since the inception of his government, President Barrow had put emphasis on adding value to agriculture to improve the economy. His government policy is to promote diversification in agriculture. This calls not only focusing on groundnut and rice production, but to promote livestock, horticulture, and poultry farming. The Ministry of Agriculture is working on the implementation of this policy to promote public-private partnership, to encourage investors to work with farmers and move from subsistence to commercial farming, as well as add value to the production, processing, storage, and marketing chain. This week, on institutional reforms, you will be aware that the President approved the changes in the security sector reform with the appointments of the security heads at the police, immigration, and prisons. Similarly, appointments of civil servants as governors and deputy governors are part of the institutional reforms the government is undertaking. It is government policy to depoliticize the office of the governors in the regions. As representatives of the President at regional level, the office of the governor is a public institution that should serve all citizens. Also on institutional reforms, President Barrow delegated the Minister of Women's Affairs, overseeing the office of the Vice President, to launch the national think tank. This was done at State House in Banjul earlier today. The think tank inaugurated today is initiated by the new government to assist in championing evidence-based policy making through a people-centered research, advocacy, networking, and strategic partnership, making best use of Gambian expertise, whether they are in country or in the diaspora. Meetings during the week, the President had been consulting with professional and business people on issues that will contribute to advancing his government's development agenda, as well as promoting diplomacy on a bilateral and multilateral basis. One of the major events this week has been the Eid al-Fitr. In his statement, he reiterated that the importance of respect for the rule of law, tolerance, and devotion to building the new Gambia. He also called for change of attitudes, promotion of unity, and not to allow religion or tribe to divide us. President Barrow also announced that a policy will be developed by 2018 to liberalize Hajj travel arrangements. This will allow for more competition and better services for pilgrims. At the cabinet meeting, which was held yesterday, it was an opportunity to approve projects that will support government policies to improve information management, data collection, infrastructural development, and institutional reforms at the Ministries of Finance and Economic Affairs, Transport, Works and Infrastructure, and Interior. And finally, the President will attend the 29th Ordinary Session of the African Union in Addis Ababa next week. In this light, the next media briefing is scheduled for the 13th of July, 2017. For now, I will take few questions and kindly identify yourself and the media establishment you are representing. Thank you.
Issues of agriculture. I don't know whether your government is aware of the fact that farmers are complaining of not receiving groundnut seeds, and the raining season has already begun, especially in the buses and other areas. So I don't know what is your government takes on that.
Thank you very much. I think if you were here at the last briefing, I informed you that the government issues and the implementation of policies at the ministerial level. At this level, what we have been discussing and what we should be focusing on is the policy decisions that have been taken, and as well as the engagements of the President. On agriculture, especially the issue of seeds, I have been informed that the seeds are available already, as well as the fertilizers at a reduced price compared to last year. Also, I was informed that the Ministry of Agriculture is working with the communities to look into the issues of the farm implements. The ones that are available, they can make sure they retrieve them so that the majority of the people in the communities could access them rather than it being monopolized by individuals, as well as looking for all the ones and see how they can replace them. This I have been informed regarding agriculture as far as the policy decisions are concerned.
I'd like to ask if the President's engagements with the multilateral and donor partners have been looking into the possibility of debt cancellation for the Gambia, because we have been informed that the government has inherited a lot of huge debt burden, and then a debt that is becoming a burden for the country, and whether this has also been discussed through the briefing of the Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs in this week's cabinet meeting.
My name is Mamadou Diallo. I'm from the Gambia Radio and Television Services. Just wanted to ask concerning the civil service reforms. You said the government has appointed new governors and deputies. I wanted to ask, in order to depoliticize these important government institutions, is this going to apply to the further down to the chiefs and alcalos, knowing that they too are very politicized and most of them were illegally appointed by the former government?
So Claire Barjoles for RFI. This is agriculture related but more general questions about what will become the lands who belong to Yaya Jammeh, because there are a lot, and before people used to to have to go to cultivate them, and so this year what they will become, they will just remain empty, or people will be able to cultivate them?
With regards to the issue of debt cancellation, if you recall throughout when the president came into power and realized that there is nothing in the coffers of the government, the first appeal was for donor partners to support the government and the country to be able to move forward the agenda for change that people have been fighting for over the years. And if you realize what is happening and you observe, you notice that all traditional donors have been coming back to see how best to support the government to move forward with the change so that the change will have an impact on the lives of Gambians. So the issue of debt cancellation, even though it is not specifically discussed at the cabinet meeting, what we have realized is that the partners are giving support to areas that we have identified. If some of you have been following the news, yesterday we had a lot of the issues that have been addressed in that part of their discussion in cabinet. With regards to civil service reform, whether it will include the chiefs, so far there is no policy announcement regarding what will be done with the chiefs, but as far as we know, there's an overall reform to ensure that the institutions, public institutions, do not use politics to abuse the rights of other citizens by discriminating them. And also, if you notice, over the during the campaign for the National Assembly elections, the president, wherever he went, the chiefs are not allowed to take the public stand because they are supposed to serve everybody, just like the governors. So, in other words, that is the policy the government is promoting, so that people who are in responsible positions, that they have to address issues that affect everybody. They should not use politics to discriminate others. Land belonging to Yaya Jammeh, I think that one is already a foregone case. They are being reviewed. They are doing their investigations to know what land he owns, what land he doesn't own. And if you recall, one of the lands which he associated to himself was the Jahli Pachar rice project. For that project, he said he gave to President Barrow. But then I know that President Barrow visited there and farmers are using it who are in that locality, not to bring others to come and farm there.
This is Abu Bakar Siddiq, a freelance journalist. Mine has to do with the recent launching of the think tank. We were in Banjul this morning, and the launching went fine, inshallah. But journalists were not given the opportunity to ask questions. I know that was not the ground to do so, so I will use this opportunity to ask. Though we know the leadership already, and the people who are going to partake into the processing of the think tank, but I want to know the key areas that they will be concentrating on when it comes to development. That's my question, yeah.
First of all, the think tank, I think last week we responded to that issue. They come from diverse areas of development, and they'll be looking at, based on their expertise, the different areas that are going to advise government on the policies that will be focusing on its 3-year plan. Yes, so it depends on which area, and because they are going to work on the National Development Plan, which covers all the areas government is working on. So that means that you will have expertise who will come from the different areas to be able to give the right advice. Yeah.
It's just a related question to what Sedikan have asked, and then I will ask, some of the members of this think tank, they are not Gambian based. They are not based in the Gambia. Some of them have been away for long. And then do we expect them to be coming here, or they will be outside there offering their technical support?
Without going into the specifics of how they're going to operate, the idea is to bring all Gambians with expertise on board in the think tank, based on the expertise they have. And I'm sure you are aware that with technology now, to give advice on a particular policy area. That's a general understanding. But how they will specifically operate, that is under the purview of the Office of the Vice President, who has been assigned as the overseer of the institution to look into the area of their day-to-day operations as a think tank.
Talked about business owners meeting the president, sit over the weekend or during the week. So if possible, if there is anything you know on what they have discussed, if you can share it with us in brief.
The business people who come to express their areas of interest, they consult to look at the areas the government is interested in pursuing, to see whether those are areas they can also get into, to give the relevant support by coming in as investors. So they are looking at discussing areas where they think where the areas government is giving emphasis, and see whether that is in line with their own operations, to be able to see whether they can come in.
Still, we've seen over the period that the new government has, they have been making efforts to at least reduce the prices of certain commodities like fuel, and we've seen also fertilizer. Have they taken, or is government looking into the reduction of prices of basic commodities like rice?
I think either you are advocating for the devil or no, I don't know. But the press releases few weeks ago, almost a month or plus, there was a press release as to the commodities that the prices have been reduced. So it is not specifically on A, B, and C, but they look at the categories which they have specified in that press release. And among them was the issue of potatoes and onions.
The new government claimed that, they inherited empty coffers, and then Gambia is also on a very poor record considering human rights. One could consider that there could be a mission of image making. What is the agenda of Gambia government at this AU conference?
The Gambia government doesn't have its own specific agenda. It is part of a union, that is the AU, and this is the 29th ordinary session, where they will look at the agenda of AU as a whole, and then discuss it and come up with their own resolutions. But then, to look into, as a member country, its technicians will be there to look at the areas that are of interest to the Gambia and to push those agendas, whether it's in trade or whether it is in the area of human rights, whichever area is of interest to the government of the Gambia. It is important that we reach out and work on that. And that is the reason why you have the technicians who are going there to also look into the areas that are of interest to the Gambia, but within the context of African Union as an organization. Thank you very much for coming.